Welcome to the Brooklyn Podcast with yours truly, Anthony Puccio, my co-host, Colin Helwig. Colin, from one of the first podcasts, I asked you, which game are you most excited for? And you said the last game. And here we are in the offseason, finally. Nets finished 26 and 56. They overachieved. They have the sixth best odds to land the number one pick in the 2025 NBA draft. Now that the dust is settled, how are you feeling about things?
I'm feeling good. I said that, the end of the year, the last game of the season was the most exciting game because truth be told, ever since the Nets traded for their picks back, traded Mikal Bridges, not that he was ever that much of a showman himself, but ever since that point, the most exciting thing that was going to happen to the Brooklyn Nets in the next calendar year was going to happen in June. It was not going to happen in September to April, any of those points. So here we are, it's like the Friday of your weekend. The tough part of the week is over. Today's a Monday. That's like the September of what last year was, where it's like we know that you got to grind through a bunch of stuff, and that's what they did. It wasn't the prettiest season. It wasn't the funnest season. They had some fun moments, maybe some that were kind of like a double-edged sword if we want to get into the tanking stuff. I know we will soon, but at the end of the day, we're here. The tough stuff is gone. The first year of a rebuild is always the hardest, and it's over with. So pat yourself on the back, Nets fans.
Yeah, I echo a lot of your sentiments. I think the first year of a rebuild where the Nets will actually have a lottery pick, right? We've discussed this so many times. It's been since 2009, since they were in New Jersey, that they had a lottery pick that was their
Yeah.
own. So the fact that we got through it and there was a lot of bickering, as you know, people trying to tell each other how to root for the team or not root for the team, or like how they should appreciate basketball was it was really testing my patience. I know it's testing your patience, but like you said, we're through it. Like, pat yourself on the back, take a shot, whatever it is right now. Like, sit back, enjoy the NBA playoffs for what they are. But this season, covering it, it's tough. When you hit game 50 in the middle of a rebuild, you're like, oh God, like this feels like it's never going to end.
Yeah.
Truly a marathon, 82 games. Personally speaking, it felt very long. It felt dragged out. I think the beginning of the season was fun. They were winning, and then like the constant change, and even us on this podcast, like, are they tanking? Or are they not? Are they tanking? Or are they not? And then we kind of settled in these last 20 games, these last couple of months. It's nice that it's over. Like I usually don't say that about a Nets season, but I'm just so glad it's over. I'm so glad we could do these podcasts. This is the first year of the Brooklyn podcast, and shout out to like
Picked a hell of a year to start this.
hell of a year. So obviously we'll be getting into a lot of draft stuff, a lot of off-season stuff. Sean Marks with his end-of-year press conference was kind of flexing his flexibility and their flexibility, and not necessarily shying away from the idea that they have assets to acquire a star. But he also says, "I'm not just going to acquire a star to be a 6 or 7 seed," which
Mhm.
I think a lot of Nets fans feel right now. And the news roundup isn't very strong, but I found it encouraging that he wasn't like trying to promise something that give us false hope with promises that he might not be able to fulfill. So, is there anything from his end of season press conference that really stood out to you?
Nothing that I would say like that kind of like stood out or really like, made me like take a step back or even forward. But that's also how I felt when it came out that he was saying, oh, or Giannis is like the plan A, I believe was the report. Like all these things, they're still none of it's definitive. Plans can always change. And, Sean Marks saying just like how he said, like, oh, we see Mikal Bridges as a guy we can build around. Saying that over and over and over again was part of the reason you got an absurd return for him. It's the same reason why you say, like, oh, we don't need to go out and trade for like a superstar. You need that. So, like, and you saying that is like creating leverage where it's like, okay, if you're on the phone with the Bucks, they're saying and they've put it out there, hey, we don't need Giannis. Like, we're not gonna let you just like fleece us here. Like, yeah, if there's a deal there, there's a deal there. But, we have said and we have put it out there, and therefore we believe in negotiation right now that, oh, you don't want to give us a good deal? Okay, that's cool. We'll leave the table and we'll build with our 4 first-round draft picks. So I think it's just, more expression, like you said, expressing their fluidity. It's not exactly a hot take to say don't read into anything that a GM says in April, but that's the truth of it.
Right. No, I like that again, and we've been saying this all year long. Like, I like that they're staying patient, that they're flaunting their flexibility. I think he had a quote where it was like, "I know that I have 32 picks to work with. Like, I can do a couple of things with this, right? We know that we have cap space. Let me see how we're going to work with this, right? So
Mhm.
maybe they do take another year to rebuild, right? Is it taking on bad salaries this summer and rebuilding because they have their own pick in 2026? That I think is to be determined based on where they select this year.
Yeah.
Uh, but all said, I'm happy because it's like there's no need to try and fit a square into a circle. There's no need to force anything. There are very few players that could turn this roster as it is now into a top five team. Now, don't get me wrong, with Jordy Fernandez coaching and the way that these guys play for him, I think if you did put a star like Giannis in there, of course, in a bad East, they probably would be a top five team in the East with Giannis. But at what cost? Like that's where this all also drives down to. Is like at what cost? If you build out a team, great, but for how many assets, how many picks? I think they have this infatuation, and I think they've had this infatuation with Giannis for very long. That they really, if he's there and he's on the market and he's asking out, I really think they're going to be in pole position to get him, and they will. That's the thing. Like, if he really wants out this summer, I think they're jumping in on that. So that's where I'm kind of like, I don't want to get too happy about their patience and flexibility at the same time because I
Mhm.
think if he asks out, they will absolutely jump on that opportunity.
Yeah, I won't get too into this, but I've said before why I think going after Giannis is a mistake, and I personally believe that the front office will not go after Giannis because it just is a mistake because you're just
I'm with you.
yeah.
I'm with you. I mean, Zion, we've had this conversation, but Zion, you're giving up less, in my opinion. I don't think you're giving up. Maybe you're giving up half of what you'd give up to get Giannis.
Mhm.
I don't think you're giving up 4 first round picks. I
Yeah.
don't think you're giving up all of that for him.
Yeah.
I'm wrong. Negotiations happen, but I don't know. Do you see anybody uh, that you think could just turn this team around with one trade, like the way that they flipped the script with J Kidd back in '01?
I mean, do we wanna get Giannis, and then do we also wanna bring back Kevin Durant? Like, I think you need, like, both of those guys if you really wanna, like, do some damage, and that's just not gonna happen. Like, remember how unprecedented it was when the Nets traded both KD and Kyrie? It was the first time a team ever traded 2 all-star starters in the middle of the season. Like, they sent them to 2 separate teams. The idea of in one offseason pulling in 2 guys of that caliber to your location is everything's crazy until someone does it, but I just don't see it, and I just be normal. Draft young guys and grow them, and you got the infrastructure, you got the coach, like, just be normal, like there's that horror movie where, like, the lady's driving her kid, and she's like, "Why can't you just be normal?" And the kid's in the back just, like, screaming, like, that's what the Nets feel like. Just be normal. Let's do the right thing here.
Uh, I don't know. March again. I keep thinking about the end of season press conference and just thinking about what he said about like how you can't build a team the way that you used to with this new CBA. You can't do it that way. Like if you get two superstars in the building, that's almost overdoing it. Like you have to organically do it the way that Oklahoma City did. I mean, they struck gold with that SGA PG trade, but like other than that, they've
Aaron
done.
Wiggins Aaron Wiggins, like, carried them to their win. You know who was the leading scorer for it was Derek White was the leading scorer, but Peyton Pritchard was huge. The Knicks won when Cam Payne, who's on a minimum contract, like, came in for Mikal Bridges. Mikal was on the bench for that entire run. Depth.
Yeah.
Tatum's there, like, yeah. Sorry, I interjected you. Keep going.
No, no, you're absolutely right because the
Ty
league now.
Jerome. Ty Jerome last
Ty
night. Come
Jerome,
on.
yeah. No, you're on fire right now. It's role players, guys that could come off the bench and make an impact. You have to be 8, 9 deep in this league,
Mhm.
not 3 top strong, and then Royce O'Neal is your 4th best player. With all respect to Phoenix, like Matt Ishbia, he thought that he was coming into a league where he could just acquire all these superstars. Mark said it the other day, like there's no way that we could do what we did before under this new CBA. So there's no need to force this. In my opinion, no need to jump after Giannis and give up the kitchen sink for him. Like, build the team first. Like I said, build the team before anything. They won 26 games this year, which is overachieving, but in the grand scheme of things, it's also 26 wins and 56 losses. Like they're not there yet.
Yeah.
I think you're following me here.
Correct. Correct. Yeah. Baby steps. Baby steps
J-
need to be taken before Greek freak sized steps.
yeah, but
That's it.
maybe jaw steps, a giraffe step.
I love Ja. I think it's so funny that no, I don't know if the Nets would jive with this. That like he's just said, yeah, I'm gonna do the gun thing. I'm gonna do the grenade thing. Like I don't care. Like
Oh, how
there's
many
so
people
many
did?
other things that other NBA players should be suspended for. You're gonna suspend him for that. Is it good? Does it send a good message? No. But like, come on. They're a bigger fish to fry than John Morant going blicky blicky. Like,
Yeah, I think that they're targeting him to a certain extent. It's like how many guys in the NBA have a gun celebration? Again, I'm not justifying it, but like
dude, Mikal Bridges,
Mikal
you're gonna tell me
Bridges,
that this isn't a gun? Like,
right,
I know
right,
it's three, but
right. And he's the Iron Man. He's the good boy around the league, which is cool. But like,
yeah.
and look, I sometimes I don't like Ja's antics. I didn't like that he went into Jordy Fernandez when the Nets played him. I was like, that's a punk move. But you know what? If he becomes available, Taylor Jenkins gets fired in Game 78 of the season. The team is losing by 55 to Oklahoma City in the first round. If this doesn't work, I'm curious, like if they're going to weigh their options with him over there. Now that's again a hypothetical scenario, but if he becomes available, I would much rather Ja with all the off-court nonsense than I would Giannis with all the happy good guy
Oh, yeah.
nonsense.
It's also younger. Yeah. No. Easy.
Yeah.
No contest.
All right, so we're giving out final report cards, Colin. I'll let you shoot first. Your favorite moment of the season and your least favorite moment. D Rock, if you and anyone else that's in here, if you want to shoot in the comments, be our guest. We'll discuss them. Colin, what do you got for me? Your favorite and your least favorite moment?
So favorite for me, Tyrese Martin and the Phoenix flamethrower that he put on. You know, the D'Angelo Russell moment in Houston is definitely right up there, but I wanted to do something a little bit different because I feel like that one is the Phoenix game is a little bit less fresh. Obviously, I think that was right around Thanksgiving time, so there's some time has passed in it. But you know, it was still a point in the year where the Suns, you know, I think they started like 9-1 with like KD and KD in the Nets. It still means a little bit something when we play him. I don't know if this is the year we want to see them win with all the tank wishes going on, but you know, to go out there and not get punked, like it kind of stunk when they got punked by the Suns 2 years ago, and Devin Booker was going up and doing the 3 point gun thing into Mikhail's face. Like I remember watching that. I was like, Mikhail's a better guy than I am because I don't care if that's my best pal. I'm slugging him in the face if he does that to me on the court after smoking me and taking, you know, I guess Mikhail wasn't KD's teammate, but you know, they're the reason why each other is in a different situations. But you know, beating Phoenix still kind of feels good at the end of the day, and it's just the way in which they did it. Like Dennis Schroeder, I clipped out a bunch of like shots from that game. The one that is still getting repurposed is the one of Schroeder just hitting a step back on KD and then doing his like celebration at him, and he's just got ear to ear grin on his face, like as he's backpedaling back on defense. And Tyrese Martin is, you know, he's from my area, so that was cool to see him go off, you know, for me, like personally. And, you know, even if you want to take that away from it, who doesn't love seeing at that point, a two-way guy just go ballistic and beat a team that is supposed title contender. So that was my favorite moment. My least favorite moment, whenever it was that Cam Thomas, him not being able to have the go crazy season we kind of all wanted him to have this year was the biggest disappointment of the year. So whenever that injury happened, that would have been my least favorite moment.
That Tyrese Martin game was definitely the high. Like that really there was something different about that, like you said. Like it was still early in the season. KD and the Suns were playing good basketball, and it meant something. Tyrese Martin coming up out of nowhere, it was like they were relevant again. Like it felt like I think I tweeted something and I like more people should be talking about the Nets right now. I was like, look at what Jordy Fernandez and these guys are doing in Phoenix. It was early in the season, but like 19, 20 games through, they were near 500.
Mm.
I would say just to stray off from that answer. Obviously, the D'Lo buzzer beater was sick, but I think that just that 3-game win streak in general on the West Coast was just so exhilarating. It was fun basketball to watch. Everybody was doubting them. I think that Golden State game, they were actually losing and they made a comeback in the
Mhm.
fourth quarter, right? They beat Sacramento, they beat Golden State, and then they beat Phoenix. Phoenix was like the cherry on the cake for me. But watching all three of those in a row, going into it, you're like, all right, they're 6-10. They lose a couple of these games. The tank is officially on, and we just got to accept it for what it is, right? 6-13 after that, assuming. And we go in and watch them win three in a row. Now they're 9-10, and they're in a play-in playoff spot. At that point, I said, "You know what? Screw the tanking. Like, if these guys are good and they're playing hard under Jordy, Schroeder was playing fantastic at that point, playing like an all-star. I think he was averaging like 25,
Mhm.
25 and 6, 25 and 7 at that point. You know, for me, that was really the high of the season. Not just the Suns game, that whole West Coast trip. It was like something special came together. You kind of had that 18-19 vibe again, where these guys had catapulted in the sense of like they've rallied behind the head coach. Like that was kind of the dagger for me with Jordy. Like at that Suns game and that West Coast trip, I said these guys have bought into what this guy is preaching, and he's a damn good coach. Like he's going to stick around for a while. I think we saw that in the first 10 games, but that trip really kind of showed something different, at least from the head coaching spot and what this team was about, building an identity while also rebuilding, competing as much as you can against some good teams, but also rebuilding, developing. Seeing someone like Tyrese Martin come up and do that in one of his like first like real NBA games that he's getting legitimate minutes.
Mhm.
It was special to watch. My least favorite moment or moments were probably honestly like I was so disappointed with Nick Claxton this year. Like, and I think it was when he maybe when he like threw he got ejected for like throwing the ball into the stands or something, and it was soft, like it was a soft ejection. But I was just like, enough with this shit. Like, excuse my language, but like enough. Like he keeps getting technical fouls, keeps getting ejected. He's not living up to the contract that he was just signed for. Like Nick needed to be a leader for this team this past season, and he wasn't. Like he was hardly on the floor to do that, and he was getting these immature technical fouls and ejections. Like I'm just thinking of like how frustrated I was in that moment because it was like you don't need to be a superstar. You don't need to do anything outlandish, just play the damn game. Like, just all you got to do is play the game. And he's getting kicked out, and getting into fights and doing stupid stuff. I kind of felt like I don't know. It made the signing a little bit more frustrating. And he really is what he was one of two players that we both came into the season outside of Clowney and a couple other guys. We were looking at Claxton and we were looking at Cam Thomas and saying, right now, these guys are the young cornerstones of the season. You know, Cam Thomas out for most of the year, and Nick Claxton is getting ejected and acting foolish. He's acting immature. Like you wanted to see him take that step up from a mature perspective, and I feel like we didn't see that. I was definitely a little bit frustrated. I felt like that was the low points of the year was seeing him kind of regress.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. I think his season really was just the definition of head scratching, and it,
Yeah,
it was even like a point where he had a really fantastic February, and it was the thing where it's like, all right, just when I think I'm done, you start like pulling me back in. Like we weren't, and I when I say head scratching, I really do mean it in the truest sense of the word, because the fact that it was head scratching is why it is disappointing. But there was still just enough where you're like, all right, like maybe he can turn this whole thing around. And then it kind of mellowed out like to the end of the year. But his February was fantastic. And I for one enjoyed seeing him and We'll talk more on or at least I will talk more on Sharp later. But there were enough bits in there to like, especially with how they moved in the ball and Jordy's offense, with how they would bring pressure and then guys had to recover and everyone had to be quick on their feet. There was enough there to like make you like not want to look away and just say like, all right, Claxton's not the guy. Like we should trade him
right.
or whatever. Like it was truly just like maddening, honestly. So yeah, I don't know who you
Yes.
got for MVP. What are we doing? MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, six man.
Yeah,
What
and
you got?
biggest disappointment.
I'm gonna let you go first. I always go first.
All right, so I'm giving an honorable mention for favorite moment of the season was also Vince Carter retirement night. That was a special night.
Good one. Yeah.
That was a really, really special night. D-Rock says his favorite moment was when Kenny Atkinson made his coaching return to Barclays and smoked the Nets. Only game that D-Rock attended.
That
Good
was
for
a
you,
good game.
D-Rock.
That was a good game to go to sit there and listen to Kenny pregame. Like Jordy is very buttoned up. Kenny just chats openly about his time in Brooklyn. It's good to listen to him. I enjoyed that one as
Yeah.
well.
D-Rock says his least favorite was Cam Thomas's injury the first and second time. After that, he barely watched, and I feel that. Like, that's definitely I think that's the biggest letdown for a lot of Nets fans. Not all of them, with this split fan base of love-hate relationships with players, but Cam Thomas's season was disappointing. So, moving over to MVP, Jody Fernandez, most improved player. I obviously the answer is Cam Johnson, but
Yes. Yeah.
I'm gonna say I really liked what I saw from Noah Clowney, just to be a little bit different.
Interesting. Okay. I,
Just
I, I was I was rather disappointed with Clowney, but
were you? Just the flashes I saw. He's raw. He's still young, so I like the little bit that we got to see from him.
yeah.
But the most improved player, I mean, on paper, obviously, is and for the naked eye is Cam Johnson turning into a damn near all star.
Hmm.
Um, if Dennis Schroeder is applicable in this scenario, then he might be the most improved player. But I don't think that's gonna count. Oh,
Yeah.
19 games don't cut it. My defensive player of the year. Like Claxton had that run for like a month or two where he was fantastic. We talked about it. Like he's
Mhm.
averaging like 3, 4 blocks a game. Um, I don't know if I can think of a good answer for this. You have one?
Yeah, I did Dayron actually, just because maybe his metrics aren't there, but having been at all the home games this year and watching him play, one of my like favorite things to like watch the Nets this year, like really watch during the games was again, it all starts when it's Jordy Fernandez defense. It all starts with ball pressure, and that means picking up the guy at the other end of the court and being in his grill, even when he's near the logo. And that oftentimes invites the offense on the other team to do like a high pick and roll and get downhill and go from there. And when that happens, it puts so much pressure on the center to kind of hedge between, am I covering the rim? Am I coming up to stop like a mid range jumper, depending on who the ball handler is? Or if it's going to end up being a driving kick, then, scattering out and, being quick on your feet as the wings try to. So they're going to drive, they're going to kick it, it's going to bounce around the floor. And, you got to be able to run across the court to get in a guy's face and make a good closeout, not a reckless closeout. And Dayron Sharp seemed to like quarterback so much of that this year in the minutes when he was on the floor. I was really impressed with him. Still brought that rebounding prowess. He's still one of the best per minute rebounders, truthfully, in NBA history. Now, the sample size is like too small to make a claim like that definitively. But if you look at the numbers, pure rebounding, he's still fantastic. And he's gotten so much better. He did it last year. He did it even more this year of playing with another big guy out there. When he would play with Claxton, they were very much in sync where, two guys weren't going up to go for like a rejection and then leaving a wide open offensive rebound for the other team to clean it up. That was a problem with him before because Dayron was a very like block hungry guy younger in his career. He's gotten way more strategic with that. And he's learned to, when that shot is going up, even if it is him just down there, he can go up and try to like block the shot. Or, if he realizes, I'm not going to be able to get to this, I can't just jump in and like go for a last minute rejection and then again give up room for an offensive rebounding for the opposing team. So just feel like he tied so many little things together. And a lot of it really comes down to his conditioning, especially how he's able to move on the defensive side of the ball. So that's a lot on Dayron. I think he's all in all been Cam is my most improved player as well, just because similar eye test things. If you want to look at the way he was able to hand the ball, manipulate the offense, come around screens, still keep the shooting up despite the efficiency really stayed and the volume went up. He did a fantastic job this year handling the rock. I don't know if I mentioned that. So he gets most improved, but I it was a joy for me to watch Dayron Sharp develop this year, even though it still wasn't the biggest sample size. So that's why, and a lot of it came at the defensive end. So to put it in a bow, that's why he's my defensive player of the year.
All good reasoning. I think you being at those games and being up close, you get a
I
different
just yapped
perspective.
for like 3 whole minutes.
God bless you. I'm Dayron Sharp nonetheless, and no disrespect to Day Day. It's just That's not an easy thing to do.
No.
You were at those games, and I felt like when I was covering the team 82 games as a beat writer, like you just see things that other people don't. Now, like obviously watching on TV with Yes Network and Iron Eagle and Sarah and them breaking things down, you see things that you can't see in person.
Mhm,
At home, it's the same thing there. And I think especially for the defensive side, really being able to see how they communicate on the floor, who they're like their body language, like what their activity. I think you see more in person, right?
mhm.
And I think
Very much so. Yeah.
you're doing a good job at spelling out like what you were seeing firsthand for Dayron Sharp. Like I I noticed it, but I feel like I was kind of checking out late in the season and watching the games on TV that for me it's hard for me to really say like Dayron Sharp was so stand out because I personally I didn't see it from the
Mhm.
same perspective and lens as you.
Yeah. I'll say that, and if you even wanna, like, talk about more about things that you don't always see, his court vision has always been kinda, like, sneaky good. It was I mean, he's no Jokic, but, like, he had a couple, like, really, like, eyebrow-raising, like, passes this year that, I don't know, I'll never not be, despite watching Jokic for all these years, I'll never not be excited when I see a big man throw the ball around like that. So I'm in a position where, this is like a bit of a hot take, but like I want to see more Dayron Sharp. Maybe it's not a hot take after what we just said, but I want to see more Dayron Sharp, even if it comes at the expense of Nick Claxton. I was that encouraged by his play this year.
If they could get a first for Claxton, they could get assets for him and draft a big man in this year's draft. I would be completely fine with them
Yeah.
rating Nick, and I think he would be fine with it too. We saw what he was capable of with KD and Kyrie and those guys on a good team.
Mm,
Put him somewhere with a couple of stars, he'd be great.
yeah.
But I just don't know if he fits into this rebuild. As crazy as it sounds, he's young. I don't think he's like mature enough. I don't think he's ready. I don't think his game is polished enough in Jordy's system. Quite frankly, like
It's hard when you're a little bit of still kind of like I won't say he's totally a one-dimensional center, but he kind of plays like one. He really doesn't like his field goal attempts per game went down this year. There's no excuse
yeah,
for that with how the offense changed, like and how the shot creators went away with Mikhail gone. But it's hard to be the focal point when you're a big man, which is, and not like a ball handler and someone who creates. I don't want to use the word hub because, not every like offense runs that way with a center as their hub, but it's a lot to ask out of just like a defensive kind of guy. I don't know.
it's tough. It's tough. And again, 26 wins is only like it kind of feels like we are nitpicking at certain things because they won 26 games. Like the silver lining is all the stuff that we're about to see.
Mhm.
Right, Jordy Fernandez obviously being the bright spot. Cam, we didn't really get to see play. Cam Thomas, that is, much this season, so we didn't really have much to be excited about with that. D'Lo brought a little spark for a couple of games. It was fun watching him again, but like everything that we've been looking forward to is about to happen in the next couple of months. Like so, to finish off the grades, like we have six man of the year, and then I'm gonna let you rip it off too. Like six man of the year is Zaire Williams. I know he started 45 games this year, but big fan of Zaire. I hope he's back next year. Seeing him have the best statistical season of his career. Somebody that came in 24 minutes per game, 10 and 5, shot the three ball clip at 34%, was a total grit and grind player.
Mhm.
I love him on this team. I think he epitomizes what the Brooklyn Nets want to be about. Just like these guys that in any given role, any given situation, when your name is called, like you're going to go on the court and hustle your ass off. And that was Zaire Williams this year. Uh, so I'm going to give him the six man of the year, even though I know he started a lot of games. Everyone could be considered a six man of the year on this team because of all the flip flopping in the lineups. But the biggest disappointment, do I dare say Ben Simmons?
Who's that?
I don't know. I don't know.
He's the did you hear he's the Lakers or the Clippers pretend Jokic? He's like like when they're like doing scout practices or whatever.
Oh my
They
god,
had him in there.
should be a mannequin. I my biggest disappointment is Cam, it's Claxton on the court. It's Cam Thomas not being on the court. Like
Well said.
I would have been totally fine watching a 25, 26 win team if I got to see Cam Thomas balling out there. Like I was excited for a couple of explosions this year, and we said that like on the podcast. You know, they might stink this year, but at least we'll get to see Cam Thomas have a couple of 30, 40 point nights, maybe 50 point nights. You know, he's going to have all the freedom. Let's see how he's going to react to double teams and as the playmaker, as the number one. And we never got, we never had him for more than 10 games in a span. I don't think.
Mhm.
Maybe early in the season, like he might have played 15 and then like that sucked. Like, it sucked seeing Cam out. That's the one thing I was looking forward to on the court this year. Like,
Yeah.
say it proudly. So I'll let you rip away there, Colin.
No, you said
MVP,
it.
MIP.
You Cam off the court, disappointment, and Claxton on the court. You said it all. That's perfect. For my sixth man, though, because also of what you said, about like how so many different guys fielded bench minutes, didn't start here and there. I try to really think about what that like term means, and I think it really just truly was like Trendon Watford this year. The Nets oftentimes, whether it was tanking or if it was actual injuries, maybe we'll never know. But there were a lot of games, especially in the second half of the season, where they literally just did not have like a pure point guard. And Tyrese Martin did a good job handling the rock too. I was impressed with him, all things considered. Did a lot. Same with Keon Johnson, things that like they weren't really asked to do. But Trendon Watford was looked to be like the real like kind of like creator for them. Especially the Nets were not a good transition team this year, but when he checked in, he was always looking down the court. Their transition points always went up when he came into the game, even though he wasn't particularly the fastest guy in the court. His full court vision was very like helpful to a team that really needed someone to like set the table for them. Like everyone knows they didn't have a lot of guys who can create their own shot, that even like space the floor too well. Like Zaire Williams let it fly, but like, is he really threatening? Like some defense will let him take that. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
just the way he was able to operate down on the block, kind of like, I mean, he's like a big guy. He kind of operated like a, dare I say, like almost kind of like a Ben Simmons, like in theory, where he can like get down low and then like find like his find shooters or just like operate in transition. So I don't know if he'll be back next year, but he did a good job and he did a lot of. I think he said a couple times like I'm good to do like backup point guard duty, but I don't think that's it's still asking him to do something that probably isn't his like designated position. It's probably not something he planned on doing when he came into the league. So I just like applaud his efforts for that, and I think that
Who was your MVP?
CJ, yeah.
Cam Johnson.
I mean, he was the MVP and he was the WVP, like what a worst anti MVP for like the
Yeah.
Lakers. But we're doing awards. Awards are meant to be positive, so to keep it in, and it's because of the fact that they were so good with him on not so good, but so much better with him on the court and so much worse with him off the court. That's what the word value really means. You can look up all the metrics. He really was that for this team.
We had that episode a couple weeks ago with Michael Scotto, and we asked him if he thinks that he'll survive the offseason, and he didn't necessarily give us a concrete answer, but he did kind of hint that there's no rush to move him. Like Scotto really explained how much the Nets love Cam Johnson.
Hmm.
And how could you honestly, how could you not? Like everything that he did for this team and embracing the role on a rebuilding team in his position is not always easy. And he did it with class. Like it's something like the very minor things that you find that slip in the cracks. Like the Brooklyn Nets content team put something out on after the season. It was like, "What's your favorite moment?" or something like that. And CJ went up there and was like talking about all the young guys, like seeing like the Drew Timmies of the world and like these G League guys like coming up and like making a name for themselves. Like he was really humble. Like it was like he was proud to be the leader of this team.
Yeah.
So I don't think they're going to be in a rush to trade him. That's just me. That's not based on Scott or anybody else's reporting. Like we said it at the deadline, and I'll say it again. Like if, unless it's something that really Marks can't deny, I don't think they're going to take one pick back for him. Like they already have so many. I think that Cam Johnson is worth more than that, and the Nets know what they have. There's no reason to rush it.
Yeah.
So shout out to MVPs Jordy Fernandez and Cam Johnson from the Brooklyn podcast. So, as a whole, overall organization, we're going to give grades. Colin, I want you to give your grade for the Nets, and then we'll give individual grades for a couple of players and coaches or personnel. So, what do you got for the Brooklyn Nets as an organization?
I mean, this is tough. It's tough before the ping pong balls fall. Now
Yeah.
you can say that you still got to grade it on what just happened, and the assessment is on the season, not on where ping pong balls fall. And I get that. I'll give them like a C. C feels right. Like it's a very lukewarm answer, but like they did over a lot of. You can certainly make an argument that they botched the tank. Yes, we've talked about this all year. Would you like to have the first overall pick? Yes. But would you like to have it at the expense of not even knowing if your coach is like good or not? Probably not. So, like, there's the positive. Nailed the Jordy Fernandez hire. Like, I don't think anyone would argue against that. They made Cam Johnson. I said it. Everyone was like, "Oh, why haven't you traded Cam Johnson yet?" Last summer, he was coming off of not a good season, a season where he was hurt, where his percentages were down. Now he's at his like highest value ever. You maximize the value of your player. So they did a lot of right things between the margins of making sure that that first round pick had value. So I'll take any tomatoes thrown my way for saying it's a C and giving a very political answer, but that's what my answer is.
No, I'm with you. I was going to say maybe a C plus. Like Jordy, like you said, they nailed the hire. Um, Otherwise, it was a half-ass tank. It was it's really hard, and I think we underestimate when you're trying to rebuild, but you have a really good head coach. That's like half the battle in the NBA these days is literally just having guys that buy into a system and want to play hard. They
Hmm.
won the Nets 26 games this year because they didn't have more talent than many teams in the NBA this year.
Hmm.
They just outworked them. They were
Right.
more prepared, and part of me is like, there's a huge contradiction. So, in a sense, it's not that they botched the tank; it's that they made a good hire during the season. They probably didn't need to make the right hire, if that makes sense. Like, I hate to phrase it that because again, pick what you prioritize, like probability and percentage, or a good head coach that you desperately need in this organization.
Hmm.
It's hard for me to say. So I'm somewhere in that lukewarm area too. I don't hate the moves that Shaw Marks made this year, but I also don't love them. Like CJ looked good. We got to see what Cam Thomas is going to get at the end in this all season. But the D'Lo and Schroeder trade, I understand. DFS trade, excuse me. I understand it was money and that everything made sense, but D'Lo came in and won them some games, like undoubtedly.
He also kind of lost them some games. Like
Yeah,
second half of the season was, I mean, not. I guess maybe in all, if you want to put it in the full season metric, like the second half of his Nets tenure was not pretty.
yeah. He was. I guess maybe like the first 10, 15 games, it just
I
seemed
think it's
like,
understandable to have that feeling because when that first happened and he came in and he was playing great, we were like, "What the hell?" You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah,
And then by the point where he started to suck, it was like, "All right, Cam Thomas is also hurt," and everyone was just like, "All right, like it is what it is. We're almost at the finish line anyway," and we kind of
yeah,
stopped like critiquing it. But
yeah. See, I don't even want to harp on that so much, but like now, even it's always easy to say in hindsight, but looking at Tankathon and seeing that Suns pick in the lottery, only a couple spots down from the Nets. Not saying that it was a bad trade, but it's not great. Like, it doesn't feel good that they gave away those Suns picks to get their own back, to just potentially be 1 or 2 spots higher or lower than them. Now, again, like you said, a lot of this is relying upon May 12th, but I really don't love that Rockets trade right now. Like, I gotta be honest with you, like, nobody I don't think anybody could have predicted the Suns would collapse this bad, but they
yeah,
did, and that's the fact. The facts are the facts, and it is what it is. We got to live with it. I don't think Marks was perfect. I think that he has this philosophy where he's got like one foot in getting a good head coach, building a culture and an identity, and then another foot in of tanking and playing young guys. It's hard to do both. Like, it's really, you end up with the sixth best odds. Like, You're
Mhm,
not in that top 3. You're not in that top 4. But I'm not gonna go blame Sean Marks for all of this. Like, you look at they led the NBA in games missed due to injury, right? Like, they were out here, like, I feel like trying to tank. It was just constantly a big contradiction. Um, I would have probably liked to see some more players develop and grow.
mhm.
Not saying that they botched that, but, like, yeah, Cam Thomas was there. He was hurt all year. Nick Claxton was one of those guys. He was all over the place. I mean, and we could go on for days with the young guys on this roster. I didn't really feel like we saw that, like, that leap from anybody that makes me say, look, Jordy did a great job, but, like, he really especially did great with this specific player, right? Like, this when Kenny Atkinson first took over, not to keep going back to this, but, like, Joe Harris went from nobody to, like, one of the best three-point shooters in the league, and it's a dramatic example,
Mm.
but I feel like we didn't really get a lot of signs of development and growth. What do you think? Am I nitpicking here?
No, I think you're valid. I think the one guy who's would have been Day'Ron Sharp, like I said earlier, but again, like,
Yeah,
he still didn't even play a full season, so you're valid, like,
yeah.
small sample size.
I'm just trying to hit all points because it's like I'm not trying to be so harsh on these guys because they are in a very good position in the New York market to execute this rebuild.
Mhm.
But this season as a whole, you really hope that maybe you lose 56 games. Hopefully, some guys develop and grow. And I kind of, I saw it from Cam Johnson. Like, he was the one who developed the most, and he's the one that you point to. He's the MVP of the season for the Brooklyn Nets. But it's like I said, it's a little bit of a contradiction. And as good as Jordy is, I'm not going to say like he's at fault that we're not sitting here saying there's a 21-year-old that he should have developed better. Like, you know,
Mm.
Zaire maybe took that jump. You didn't like what you saw from Clowney much, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's still young, so, like, I'm probably being a little hard on him, but I love that he shoots the 3. I'm an NBA modernist. I love that he does that, but he needs to put some weight on it. He needs to start attacking closeouts. Like,
Yeah,
I I guess you can't do that really, and you can't, like, penetrate and, like, attack the rim until you put on more weight, so maybe it's not fair to ask him of that this year, but I don't know. I'll say this: his defensive transition was phenomenal this year. That's such like a feel thing. That's not really something that you can like teach a lot of guys, but he did such a good job at like leveraging his speed and his size. So I guess I just like to see his offensive game round out a bit more.
yeah,
I'm
that's fair.
nitpicking. I'm definitely nitpicking because he is young,
Yeah,
but
no,
I couldn't say that I was like particularly like I don't feel like he made any like leaps though. You know what I mean? Like his game seemed very
right,
similar to his game when he played at the tail end of 2 years ago now.
yeah. He's 20. He's gonna be 21 next year. He's still young. He's still raw. We'll see.
Mm,
He showed that he has range for a big man at least.
yeah.
And you know that Jordy loves that. Like, he's licking his chops seeing that. So I'm
Mm.
gonna rapid fire some players. I know that we've discussed them, but rapid fire some of these grades. Cam Johnson,
Hey, can't give him an A+ because I'd like to save that for a guy who's like a first time All Star or something. But career highs in points, career highs in assists. His field goal percentage went up despite him having the biggest leap in field goal attempts per game of his career. He gets an A.
Nick Claxton,
C minus. You know, it was like we said earlier, kind of like a wishy washy year. His defensive engagement wasn't always there. His field goal attempts went down. That was something that I feel like never should have happened. I know they're a 3 point heavy offense, but the looks were still there. I'm C minus. Just kind of feels right.
D'Angelo Russell.
I don't know.
It's tough.
It's hard. I don't want to like pin the second half of his Nets tenure this year because Jordy would take him out of games and he was like, it's important for like our young guys to get burned. You know what I mean? And that's like totally valid. Uh, Another C minus, I guess. I don't know. I'll say I'm glad that he came back. It pumped some life into a rather lifeless season. He hit some big shots. I think he was a very good locker room presence, and he was a good guy to have there. So with that considered, I'll actually elevate him to a C plus.
Okay. And Drew Timmy?
Come on, man.
Timmy, Timmy, Timmy.
Like, I'll give him a B. I'll give him a B. I never thought I'd be grading Drew Timmy on 2 weeks of NBA basketball. He's kinda crafty, plays really fucking hard, first to the floor a lot of the time. He just kinda, like, didn't, like, have the athletic, like, skills to, I guess he blocked Anthony Davis. That was pretty cool. Uh, yeah, I guess a B. He can stretch the floor, decent in the short roll. Yeah, I'll give him a B. Why the hell not?
And Sean Marks.
Oh boy. Well, it's either an A or it's either an F if you talk to anyone on Twitter, and there's certainly no in between. Uh Yeah, I don't care how much flack I'll take for being political here. I'm gonna give him a C because that's exactly what it is. It's not an A or it's not an F. You can certainly make an argument that there was a botched tank and that Cam Johnson should have been traded and they should have really, really, really gone for like a top three lottery odds. But again, he also left those guys in. He's got max value for Cam Johnson now. He hired a kick-ass coach. His year is not done. The most important part of his job starts
Right,
now. So how much
right.
can we really like grade him on at this point? Dennis Schroeder would have left for nothing. They got some second round picks for him. That's nothing. No one's going to throw a party over second round picks, but you got something for him. Dorian Finney-Smith, same deal. See,
He's not Nico Harris.
no,
No matter
no.
how much you dislike Sean Marks,
Nico
he's not
Harrison
Nico.
would be failed and kicked out of every school, like, on the East Coast.
Disgust,
I almost feel
disgusting.
bad for him. The reluctancy in which he answers every question, like, I see, like, a scared little kid, like, actually.
Yeah,
And I feel
yeah.
weird saying that as a 25-year-old about a grown ass
No,
man, but that's what it seems like to me.
it seems like he's the fall guy for something bigger than him. Honestly, like,
I read somewhere that the owner, like, kinda, like, pushed maybe not push him to do this, but is, like, where the whole defense wins championship things comes from. But I also read that the owner doesn't know a lick about basketball, but knows he doesn't know a lick about basketball, which doesn't quite add up. Because if you know that you don't know shit, then why are you making big shots? Whatever, but
I I don't know. Like, I think the defense thing is a shield. I think
it's such a
that,
shield.
you
It's
know,
such
it's
a shield.
total bullshit. I think, what, they're trying to build that casino in Dallas. It's a $20 billion organization if they can get that casino there, and
Right, yeah,
I
I
think
saw your
these
thread. Yeah.
yeah, like, and, it's not a conspiracy thing. It's like, no, like, ownership and the sovereign wealth funds that now can invest into the NBA, like, at least 50%, I believe, like, the league is getting wealthier. Like, this would have never happened if Mark Cuban was here.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people say it's the GM, like, the GM's fault, whatever, but, like, at the end of the day, push comes to shove, like, if the owner wants something, the GM is gonna do it. If it's selling these players, if it's buying in, like, Matt Ishbia took over the Suns and tried to build a super team. Joe Tsai took over the Nets and wanted to build a super team, and they did. Like,
Mhm.
I don't see any scenario where Nico Harrison was like, "Yeah, it's a good idea." In the era of social media and in the era where the NBA makes its money and clicks and eyeballs on leaked trade rumors, we don't hear a damn thing about Luka Doncic. I I think Nico has, like, become a villain for the league. It's like they turned, like, Luka into, like, a hero and Nico into a heel.
Mm.
But I think the real heel here are the owners of the Dallas Mavericks. I think they don't give a damn about the fan base. They care about their investment and making out on that.
I don't know if you remember this, but earlier in the year when I was trying to explain why when the Nets say that, like, "Oh, like, Cam Thomas is, like, quote, like, available," I said that, like, yeah, like, Luka Doncic is available for, like, a team's next 40 first-round picks to try to describe
Yeah.
how, like, the word available really means anything. Like, anyway, everything has a price tag. I stopped myself after saying that and said, like, "Well, maybe Lucas this would never happen because they would never trade Luka, but, like, if it was 40 first-round picks, it's insane that happened. That, like, I picked this scenario out, and they didn't even get first round picks for him, but I picked this scenario out as like a here's an absurd otherworldly
Right.
thing that won't happen, but just to explain the situation, and then it happened. That might be the craziest, and it's not even
What
Nets related, craziest callback like of the season on the show.
I remember you saying that. What are the lottery numbers tonight? What are the
Uh,
lotto numbers? What are the lotto numbers, Colin? You're clairvoyant, man. I remember you saying that, and it
yeah,
was just like in passing, like. But the point you were making is right. Like nobody's I think we were talking about like nobody being untouchable,
yeah.
right?
Yeah,
It was
I
the
it was
philosophy
that's
of
what
the
it
night.
was. It was that there was, like, a report that Cam Thomas is available, and it was like, "Here's what available means," and I was like, I'm available, like,
Right.
wanna pay me a bajillion dollars, like, yeah," but
The whole I feel horrible for Mavs fans. It's not to
I do
stray away
too.
so much from the Nets. I feel horrible for Mavs fans, and I'm a New York guy. I never feel bad for Dallas people, but this time, like as a
No,
basketball fan, and even for us, like that don't aren't we're not getting like full transparency, in my opinion. Like this defense thing is total BS. Like I said, where are the owners right now? Like why are they not? It's the Allisons. Like come out and speak. Like what really happened? Something really dramatic had to have happened for him to just swap him for AD and Christie. Like could have at least, like you said, you could have gotten at least like 6, 7 first round picks.
Austin Reeves, like,
It makes no sense. It makes no sense. It's incomprehensible. And I almost don't think that does it justice. I mean, you'll never forget where you were when you first read
no, I
the Luka
remember exactly
Doncic
where I
news.
was, yeah,
Right. Like you'll never forget that too.
mhm,
And probably in our lifetimes, that was one of the craziest trades that's completely indefensible. Look,
yes,
that Celtics Nets trade was horrible, but
yeah,
that I feel like I don't think that comes anywhere with the magnitude of this, what it
no,
means for the fan base and the NBA, just like everything that there's just more than the encore product comes into play here.
correct,
You
yeah,
know, I put that thread up the other day, Colin, and I had a lot of people like DMing me like, "Oh, Pooch, like it would have been fun to see what they were like if they weren't injured." And I'm like,
they
I
s
know
they would've been
they
good,
would.
but they also wouldn't have had someone who, like, has the potential to go down as, like, a top 10 player of all time, like,
But
yeah, Luka
I
Doncic is not a good defender, but he's good, like, we all know these
yeah,
things, like, I love that with, like, that's it's so absurd that, like, people are still talking about it, including, like, us on a podcast about the Brooklyn Nets, like,
Colin, Jody Fernandez says this is the summer of our lives. Do you have a hot take, a bold take, something that maybe we aren't expecting coming this summer?
I would say don't be surprised if the Nets do the "let's take back salary and get picks" thing that they did in Sean's the beginning of his tenure. Now, I know that's not really the answer that everyone wants to hear because it just pretty much says, "All right, we're gonna do another year of tanking and another year of building out the foundation of a rebuild." But truth be told, we went into this year and we're like, "All right, they're gonna stink it up," and like that's kind of the goal because they have their first round pick and they just got it back and it's totally theirs. There's not much different between like what's the difference between this year and next year? I think it's the only thing is that we saw how good of a coach Jordy Fernandez is, and that made us a little bit less patient to go out and try to win with him. And I think that to rebuild the right way, sometimes you got to be patient. And I think that the front office recognizes that even with the Giannis talk, even with the things where they're saying, "Hey, we're open, we can trade for guys." I think that they're going to do what they did the first time to set themselves up for prolonged success. And I think, your salary cap doesn't just like stay, you have to fill it from somewhere. And I think what they're going to do is they're going to take on some big contracts. They'll find some wiggle room in there where they can take back some salary to kind of fill up that gap, but it will still be where they can, and it's only like a year or so, and they'll have the cap space so that after 2026 draft, they'll be right back there. Similar position as they are now, but they have more young talent. They got another high draft pick and, money coming off the books. So they'll be in a
Yeah.
good position. Again, probably the least exciting thing that they could do this summer, but that's kind of what rebuilds are all about, unfortunately. What do you got?
I wouldn't say that's necessarily like a hot take, but it's a good take at that. I think that's the reality. I'll just say this. I think somewhere along the lines. I don't think it's a Giannis. I don't think it's John Morant. I think the Nets will get somebody that has been an all-star before.
Okay.
I don't know who. I don't know who or what. I'm not gonna speculate. I think that they try and chip away at building a team. Like,
Mhm.
instead of, like, completely tanking out, having the most guys out due to injury or whatever it might be, I think they kinda, like, get their feet wet in 2026. I
Yeah.
don't think they're gonna tank out, even though it's gonna be a top-heavy draft in 2026.
Mhm.
I just can't see Marks and Jordy doing this again. Like, I can't see Jordy Fernandez, like, being able to tank again. The guy is just, like, he's a competitor, man. Like, again, I'm not saying, like, this guy is gonna transform them into a top 5 team in the league, like, they're rushing to rebuild. No, like, I could just see someone that they like, whether it be that they're in the playoffs right now and they're unhappy with their situation, or they're out of the playoffs right now and they can get them on the cheap. A name that comes to mind is Sabonis. Like, you might be able to buy low on him right now, whether you like it or not. He's
And
kinda
you're
like. Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, but, like, and that's in doing that, you think that, like, they'll just say, like, "Alright, like, we're not gonna worry about the value of our pick that year?" I'm only asking because that's why I think they're gonna wait and do this another year.
I'm more inclined to be with you on that. Like, I'm more with you that they would rebuild considering they have their pick. But if that pick falls in the top 5 on May 12th, I think they'll have a little bit more of a reason to maybe just, like, fill in the gaps a little bit because they're
Mhm.
gonna get a good player this year, right? Now, if they fall, like, to 8th, right, 7th, 8th, ninth in this year's draft, I could see Mark saying, "You know what, man, like, just ride it out for another year. It is what it is." But, like, if they end up with a top prospect this year that they could develop, maybe they throw you have Cam Johnson, you have Cam Thomas, you get a couple of these top prospects, especially one maybe in the top 5.
Mhm.
If you add a Sabonis or somebody like that, it's not necessarily pushing you over the edge, but, like, it's making them fun to watch while also, like, tinkering that line. You're not giving up 3, 4 first round picks. Like, if you give up 1 or 2 at max,
Yeah.
'cause it also kinda falls in line with what you're saying. Like, if they're gonna take on salary, like, maybe there's a disgruntled star on an expiring contract that's like, "You know what? Like, we gotta fill these seats up, like, or it's not gonna push us out of the top 10, whatever, for lottery odds." Like,
Mhm.
it's not necessarily like, it's not mutually exclusive to what you're saying, but, like, there is a world where they can coexist.
Yeah. I mean, if fans were mad at Cam Johnson for winning them games this year, oh boy, like, wait till he's not that I mean, like, yeah, Sabonis is an all-star, but there's a lot of players out there who are better than Cam Johnson who will be fun to have on the team, but will win you more games than Cam Johnson did this year. So, buckle up.
I'm with you. This was the hot take section, this was the bold take section. Like, I was just saying,
No,
like,
that's what we're here for. Yeah.
maybe the Zion, that I think Zion would be hitting like a triple.
Yeah, you almost wish you could, like, trade for Zion and then, like, something happens where he's good to go when the Nets are ready and they're good to go and they wanna start winning games, but, like, I don't know, he has to, like, go, like, on, like, a super, super, super vacation, like, the whole year, and he can't win and, oh, no, the Nets get the first pick, and now they have Carlos Boozer and Zion Williamson, starting for them in 2026. Kinda what I mean, the Raptors and Brandon Ingram, he didn't
Yeah,
play any basketball for there were so many Nets fans who were nervous the Nets would, like, get a good guy at the trade deadline, and then he'd win them a bunch of games, and that would ruin their tank. The Raptors did that. They got a good guy at the trade deadline, and then they just, like, straight up were like, "Oh, turns out you got the worst ankle injury in the whole wide world. You're not playing." He didn't
yeah,
play any I don't think he played a single game for them. That's crazy.
yeah. I hope he comes back healthy for Toronto fans'
Yeah,
sake,
get
for
them
his
out of
sake. Like,
if we're tanking again next too many tank competitors this year.
I don't think we talk enough about that. Like, this is supposed to be a
No.
generational draft. Like, this is a generational year of tanking too, because of that. Like, we don't
Right.
hear that enough. We just hear the Nets didn't tank hard enough.
Mhm.
And it's like, bro, like, they lost almost 60 games this year. Like, they were bad. Like, they were
Yeah.
fun at times, but they were bad. Like,
The Pelicans and Sixers have no business being here, especially the Sixers. The Pelicans, at least you can make the argument that they have a lot of like injury prone guys and like I still think they're a fantastic team on paper, but they've kind of like dug themselves into this hole and like they could use some help. The Sixers have had more first round picks than probably anyone in the last like 20 years. Half of them are just like not good NBA players, like are out of the league, whatever you want to like call it. Like they're not responsible or they're just bad decision makers one way or another.
Yeah. I don't know. People are mad at the Nets saying they didn't tank hard enough. I keep thinking to myself, I don't know. They led the NBA in games lost to injury. They had a million G League call ups. Like if you're mad that Cam Johnson played good, like what would this team have been if Cam Thomas was healthy? Like they probably would have carved out 32, 33 wins,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Maybe 5, 6 more just by having somebody out there that could score the rock.
Yeah.
Uh,
It is what it is.
that's
We don't have to worry about it anymore. So
no, no. The reflecting. I don't know if it's good for my soul or bad for it, but I can't wait to kind of push it aside and look forward to
yes.
college basketball film. So
Yeah.
that's what it's going to be
Yeah.
the
No,
next month.
I've been trying to think of I don't know if the Nets are gonna take 4 guys in the first round, but when the Yankees had like Judge coming up and like Tyler Austin, like Gary Sanchez, Luis Severino, they were the baby bombers and like it really caught on. Like to think of a nickname for this Nets like youth movement, something that like fans can like attach to. So
We need something like
someone
we need something.
I've been thinking for a while and I haven't thought of anything yet, but maybe the community can get back to me. We'll have to see though.
Okay, yeah.
There needs to be something. There needs to be something.
We need to see like where they are in the draft. Like we need to see who they have. But you're
Correct.
right.
Yeah.
A nice little slogan, something to look forward to, a silver lining. It's not the head coach,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
right? They got
Indeed.
their work cut out for them this year.
They do.
I don't think they're drafting 5 players.
I thought it
Uh,
yeah. I thought it
I
was
don't
funny when Jordy said it was, like, the most important summer of our lives. It kinda felt like the beginning of or the end of, like, a coming of age film where, like, the kids
Yeah,
are like, "This might just be the summer of our lives," and then, like, the credits roll or whatever.
yeah.
It is an important
Thrills
summer, though.
It's huge. Let's take some fan questions.
Yeah.
To the 80 of you that are in here right now, thank you for your support. To those of you who are listening after, we appreciate the support, whether it be from the beginning of the season or tonight, whatever it might be. Thank you for rocking with the Brooklyn Pod. We've got Jonathan Andrews. Special shout out to Jonathan. He's been with us since day one, since we launched this thing in July. Jonathan, we can't thank you enough. You're always active on Twitter with us, and you're always shooting a question. So seriously, from the bottom of our hearts at the Brooklyn Pod, like thank you for rocking with us the full way. D Rock, that goes for you too. You've been in every single live stream. So
Yeah.
shout out to you as well. Jonathan Andrews wants to know, Colin, let's say that the Nets jump up the lottery to draft third. Cooper and Dylan Harper are off the board. Who are you selecting? How would they mesh with Cam Thomas? Or would you trade the pick for a star?
I would not trade the pick for a star. I think if the Nets get to 3, if they jump from 6 to 3, that's kind of effing awesome. That doesn't happen a whole lot. You gotta take advantage of that and cash in there. And I would not worry about how he meshes with Cam Thomas. I think for as much as we like Cam Thomas and, in an ideal world, he is kind of like he becomes that, heliocentric offensive player that they can build around and usher in the next era of Nets basketball. But at the end of the day, we still don't know. I wouldn't let someone who, when you're making a decision that is going to be so important to the future of the franchise, you let someone like that, where it's still at the end of the day is a bit of a question mark, influence your decision making. With that said, I'm probably taking VJ Edgecombe just because he seems like such a Jordy player. He's young. He's got a crazy athleticism, big, big, big guard potential. I think he shot 39% in Big 12 play this year. So he can shoot the three. Jordy Fernandez loves shooting the three. He's fast. He's athletic. He's a bulldog on defense. Jordy Fernandez loves having ball handlers or on the other side of the court who can get in a guy's grill, bring pressure, really bother a guy. He just strikes me so much as a Jordy player. I think he's the right pick. I wouldn't be upset with Ace Bailey though. I know his draft stock has fallen, and I know there's a lot of smarter basketball watchers than I am, especially at the college level. I haven't got to really break down his college game at all.
Yeah.
who have really called into question his shot selection and some of the intangibles that, make you like a pro's pro and how those are lacking. I'm at least at a point where he's young. I'm not gonna let that bother me. I'm gonna just that jump shot is pure. He can hit high difficult shots. I'm not at a point where I'm gonna let myself be upset with that. Just like I wasn't upset with Cam Thomas not really like passing a whole lot when he was one of the youngest players in the league and had what 3 40-point games in a row. So I'll be glad with that of those guys. What do you got, Pooch?
I like VJ Edgecombe. I think you saying that is just gonna make me say something else. I really, really, really like Jeremiah Fears.
Mm,
I I think 3 might be too high to take him, but I don't know, man. His versatility as a ball handler and as
he's
a
big.
playmaker. It's a big, big guard, and you need like if you could start the officially start the new chapter with a big guard and length, surround him with some long wings that could shoot the ball. He's a gifted ball handler that could get to his spots. Uh,
Yeah,
Shot creator, like seeing a front court, a back court with him and Cam Thomas, that excites me a lot. Like
yeah,
they would have a lot of options, and I'm not saying he's going to come in and be a superstar right away, but like the Nets have longed for a player like that, and we've discussed that, like that combo guard that could be a point guard, but could also play off ball too, right?
yeah.
Homegrown at that. So I like Jeremiah. I like Jeremiah Fears. I just don't know if I like him at 3. Like, and it's like you said, there are a lot more educated college hoop fans and watchers than me. But from what I saw out of this kid, like when I watched him, I said he would fit Brooklyn's system and with Jordy and these guys very well.
Mm,
If they fall to 5 or 6, I could see him being the pick.
yeah. No, would not be mad with Fears at all. I remember that was Sharif's guy when we had him on a couple weeks ago too. So
Yeah. The other one that we mentioned was Malawat, and I mean, I don't change my stance on that. I wouldn't take him 3rd. Like,
I
there's
wouldn't
no
either.
way.
I know he had a rough championship game. He had like one rebound, which everyone was like, dude, like how does that happen? And I understand that, but you're drafting a guy based on his full body of work, not, one singular game. So while that may be disappointing, that I wouldn't say that's kind of like turned me away from him. But it's the same deal. I don't know that I'd want him at 3. So
Yeah. Did Malawak even declare yet?
I don't know. I know VJ declared today. So did Coop.
Yeah. I didn't see anything about Malawak, but not here nor there. Thank you, Jonathan, for the question. BJ Edgecombe, Jeremiah Fears are 2 answers that we've got on the board here.
Hmm.
Jerry Sy. We love the illegitimate son of Joe Sy. Jerry. Thank you for everything. Jerry's always supporting us and answering us also on X, so thank you. Um, Colin, he wants to know if should the Nets fire Sean Marks like most Nets fans say on Twitter?
Oh man. That's Twitter sure does love this question. Uh, you know, 2 months before the most important summer of our lives, as Jordy Fernandez had put it, and they've probably been scouting for a longer time than probably as soon as they traded for their picks back, they've been looking at this draft. I would not advise against firing the GM 2 months before you make all these big decisions. So I think if there was a time to do this, then it was when mass hysteria happened. And it's a not being a good GM when you have to trade 2 Hall of Famers in a week or 3 in 6 months or however many months it was. So no, I don't think the Nets should fire Sean Marks now. I've said this 100 times. His career as GM is like a yin yang. Like in every great thing he's done, there's been something that brings you back where it's like, oh, you messed this up. This was a miss. But when every kind of like bad thing that's happened, it's like this kind of wasn't really all your fault. So I understand why people don't like him, but I'm definitely not seeing enough where I think he should be fired at this point in the season right now. Absolutely not. I mean, that Mikal Bridges trade is why we're here right now, and that was an absolute fleece, a fleece. So I'm
Yeah,
saying no right now.
Logic says no. You're right. Like 2 months before the draft. No.
If they did that right now, everyone would be like, "What the hell are they doing?" Like, also, like, I feel like the big thing that people are upset about him now is because the tank wasn't as poor or good, no matter how you wanna look at it. I don't think a GM has ever been fired because they won too many games. Like, I get it. I get you wanna have a higher pick, but, like, come on, we're too worked up.
Weird times.
We're too worked up right now as a fan base.
Weird times in the NBA, just like fandom. I'll be honest with you, I thought that he probably should have been fired already before this season. Before the season even happened, before the KD trade even happened. Like, sorry, the Mikhail Knicks trade happened.
Mm,
Uh, now he's got to go get it done. Like he's got to execute now. He shouldn't. It shouldn't be like he's untouchable or uh, it feels like he's a lock at the GM for the next 10 years, and it shouldn't feel that way. But I'm not gonna sit here and say he should be fired. That's absolutely not how I feel. I thought after the big 3 debacle and everything like that, from what I had heard, what went down, and how players felt about him and things of that nature, I thought maybe it was time. It was time to pack it up. I thought he overstayed his welcome. But now that we're in this, no. Like, no, you don't trade him. Let him fix this and
mhm.
see what he could do. This is the first time that he's got first round picks, a lottery pick at that. And he's done damn well with a lot of these trades and gathering these assets and building flexibility. But the leash that he has, I've never seen a GM in New York sports or in any of sports really, anybody have a leash like this at GM. Seriously, like, uh, can you attest to that? Like, am I crazy or no?
I
He's
mean,
been here 10 years, dude.
Brian Cashman's been doing it for a long time, but he's got more hits than Sean does.
Cash has got rings. Sean's got one playoff series win.
No, you're right. Yeah.
And it's not to be so harsh on him, but it's the league is based on merit. He hasn't won a lot.
Mhm.
We could keep looking in hindsight or looking at what he took over, and yeah, he took over an empty cupboard and he turned it into gold, and then that gold turned into shit. So like, it's but then that shit turned into gold with the trade. So like you said, there's that yo-yo effect.
We're a
No,
shit gold factory.
oh yeah, but point being is no, he shouldn't be fired right now. But he shouldn't be like it shouldn't be like this leeway where he's the godfather of the Brooklyn Nets and Barclays. Like, if these next 2 years don't pan out the way that they need it to, I'd say give them till after this upcoming season, 2026-27. No,
Mhm.
25-26. I'm sorry. If it doesn't pan out and they're not developing players and they're still in this like limbo, building the culture but
Yeah.
tanking stuff, like what are we doing at that point?
Mhm.
But again, a lot of this is this discourse is gonna come back on May 12th. If they get a top 5 pick, the answer is absolutely no. If they're down to 8,
It's funny that it will because that has nothing to do what happens on May 12th now with anything Sean Marks did, you know?
it's crazy.
Like,
It's nuts.
that's gonna be the when everyone smacks the gavel and decides, "Yes, you're a good GM," or "No, you're not."
It's just again, it's a weird time in fandom. I feel like there needs to be a scapegoat. I'm not saying Sean has been perfect, and I'm not saying that he's been terrible. It's just I think I'm looking at more of a big picture. Like I see how comfortable Josiah is with him and giving him the reins to run this thing. Like he better execute, or else
Yeah.
it's just gonna set Brooklyn Nets basketball back
Okay.
more and more. But so
Yeah.
I would give him another year or two to just see how he handles this rebuild.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm with you.
And then Jay from BK wants to know why Nets media is so easy on Sean Marks.
I mean, I wouldn't say that they are, to be totally honest with you. I think it's easy to again, this is the guy that everyone points at and this is your fault and duh, 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 duh. I think there are plenty of, and Pooch, you wrote a very lengthy good piece last year really laying it all out. I know Nets Daily. I don't feel that by any way at all are we like too easy on him. And if you want to talk about like asking him tough questions, I didn't even get a chance to speak to Sean this year. I talked to him the year before at the trade deadline, but that was in the middle of the game, and we got tapped on the shoulder by Nets PR, and they were like, "Sean's gonna, you can talk to Sean for a little while," and we did. And it was great. And we talked big three stuff. We talked, and we were he was very honest with us, and it was great. But in the few opportunities that I have with the guy, like I'm there to do my job. So I'm going to ask the questions that I feel are important, which are tell me about the direction of the team. Tell me what do you think about this player? How are you managing all these assets? I'm not going to say something that where I'm like clip farming or engagement farming. Pooch, you've been a veteran of the beat for a while. You've definitely covered Sean more than I have. I'm curious what your thoughts are.
Sean is a political science major. He knows how to he has a good hand on public relations and media relations and things of that nature. He's good at managing people and different personnel. I haven't been in a press conference with Sean Marks. Now, I've covered this team for over 10 years of my life. I haven't been in a press conference with Sean Marks in about 4 or 5 years,
Yeah.
since before COVID. Um, I do see where Jay from BK is coming from. I do think that because if you think about it like this, Colin, if he was the GM of the Knicks, how do you think that the media would react? Like there would be front pages about them keeping a GM for 10 years with one playoff series win. The Nets are like the littlest big market team in all of sports. And that's not a diss or anything like that. It's just like I'm not like saying anybody's not doing their job. Like I'm not coming at you or Brian Lewis or Slate. Like that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying that you guys are easy on them. I'm more so saying like the Nets don't really have a lot of publications covering them to begin with. So when you
Yeah.
guys are getting them, you're really covering the basics of the season and like you said, the things that you're predicating your story on, right? So I think there's this misconstruction with Jay and a lot of fans that like, why aren't you guys tougher on him? Why is it like, why is there not more hard hitting questions? And it's like, well, I mean, we have like once a year of an opportunity to speak with him, if even that.
That's what I'm saying. I had no opportunity to speak with Sean Marks this year. And if
Right.
you want me to ask him, why did you have a bad tank this year? He's not going to answer that. No GM is allowed to
No.
talk about tanking because it's a one-way ticket to a massive fine from Adam Silver. Like,
Right.
what are we doing
Right.
here?
Right. I again I understand both sides because I know you guys and I know how hard and well you guys work. I also know the Nets organization, like, they don't put Sean out there, and he knows not to put himself out there. He's smart. Like, he knows how to deal with different personnel. Like I said, this is somebody that has a degree in political science. Like, he knows how to different manage different personalities, and he's very much got a hand on every single part of this organization, not just the basketball side of things, the business side, the media side, everything,
Mhm.
for better or for worse. Personally speaking, again, if I were down there, I think that there might be, like you said, I wrote that piece last year and I said in 7 parts, I broke down who the Brooklyn Nets are under Joe Tsai and Sean Marks. Listen to things they did well, and I've listened to things they did wrong. It was an objective piece. It wasn't subjective. It wasn't an attack piece or anything like that. There was no opinion in there. This is
Yeah.
what it is, and this is where we are.
Mhm.
I think if I was down there, I would like to see the thinking behind, the Rockets trade for the Suns picks. Um, but I don't know, like what exactly is the media supposed to ask him right now? Like you said, like are they supposed to ask him like why didn't you tank harder? Like why is the team overachieving? Like you know what I mean? Like, but then again, I understand in hindsight, like on the other side, the
It's
perspective is
understandable to be curious. Like, we know that, like, tanking is something that happens, and it's how a lot of teams, rebuild. Like, NBA teams know it too. If, like, blame Adam Silver, who's like, I mean, he's got a league to run, like, and you want a competitive product, but that's where the veil of secrecy comes in.
Right,
because teams aren't allowed to talk about certain things, and we know that, so we're not going to ask them. I'm talking about tanking, like because that's the
right.
theme of this year. Like the day an NBA team goes out and says we are going to lose every single game so that we can get a first round pick is the day that that team is like forced to be sold off to someone else. It's just
There
not.
isn't anything there's nothing egregious that, like, provokes like, such harsh criticism right now. Like, if that was gonna be the case, that would've been after the big 3 was gone.
Yes.
And Mike Vaccaro of the New York Post wrote, like, so I think the headline was like, "The Brooklyn Nets should fire," or like, "It's time the Nets fire Sean Marks." It was, like, so blatantly out there, like, going right for the jugular. That was around that
Yeah.
time. A year has passed, 2 years have passed, and now it's like again, there's nothing egregious about, like, anything that he's done.
Last year, I
So,
wrote in my final big piece on like the year, I was like, this team did not prioritize winning in the truest sense of the word when they, or you know what? No, not last year. After the trade of Durant and Kyrie, that they had other things in mind, and it's okay to have principles that you stand on, but they didn't prioritize winning. If you prioritize winning, then you would have prioritized having great players and
right,
finding a way to make sure that they stay there and don't ask out.
yeah.
I don't know if there's anything more that I can do than call it out in my stories. And if he's available, I'll talk to him. But I haven't seen the guy in over a year now.
And truth told, like, we run a very tight ship at Nets Daily. You guys work your asses off. We're all working full-time jobs and covering this team as a hobby more than anything else because we love journalism, we love basketball. The two worlds collide, and we get to sit up here in front of these folks and have fun discourse with Nets fans. Sometimes it's frustrating, but you know, again, I think Jay is justified to ask this question because we are in a New York City market. We're in the biggest market in the world, and I think we so often look at the bigger brother, right, and say like again, if it were the Knicks, how would people be responding, right? If it would be mayhem over there. He wouldn't have made it 10 years without a playoff series win. Doesn't matter what the circumstances are. It doesn't matter especially when it comes to the Knicks. The bar is set higher, even though they haven't done much in the last 25 years.
Yeah.
Just because they're the Knicks, they play at Madison Square Garden, like they're probably the most popular team in America, if not a top three.
Yeah.
That's just the way it goes. The Nets they kind of operate like a small market team that plays in New York City, and again,
Sure.
there's nothing wrong with that.
I
That
think
end of the
no, I think that's almost sometimes for the better. I'm sure the things that like those New York Post headlines are like hilarious and they sell well and they make great things to frame and put on your wall. But I don't know that if they're 100% fair all the time. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like,
Well, Colin, when I wrote that piece for the Daily News about Kyrie and KD want to come to Brooklyn, the headline that the Daily News editor selected was the Nets the Nets are like shooting for the Knicks targets. Like it was like contextualized in the sense of like
you gotta
the
get the
Nets are gonna
Knicks in the headline, Knicks for clicks.
right, right. Like it's like it was almost as if like the Nets were like poaching them from the Knicks, and I was like, wait. Like
Yeah.
hold on a
They're
second,
not
but
even on the Knicks yet.
yeah, but I do think yeah, like they're it's a strange thing. They get away with things that probably a lot of New York market teams wouldn't get away with. Moved
Yes.
here from Jersey, there's a
100%.
little brother,
100%.
dominated. Yeah, like I, it's sometimes as simple as that, but also it's as simple as you know, Wendrum, net income, sent me a picture of what the press conference room looked like when Sean Marks and Jordy were talking, and I think it was like 6 reporters there.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. No.
We had Nets Daily
How it is.
covering, which was 2 people.
Yeah.
We had Brian Lewis from the New York Post, Eric Slater of Clutch Points, Sharif of Nets Wire, USA Today, and then the Nets content team. And so, like Newsday doesn't cover them anymore. Not at least right now they don't because Evan got moved to the Giants beat. The Daily News is CJ. I don't know if CJ was there or not. I know
I
that
think
he
he was
was
there.
covering the Knicks. He
Yeah.
was there.
I think so.
So there would be like 6, 7 people. Like there aren't, the Associated Press isn't covering, the national outlets aren't covering them. Like, so, the Friedel's of the world, like, pick your poison. When Friedel was down there and asking these these tough questions, people were like, "Yo, get
They
him out
wanted
of the
to
room."
barbecue that poor guy alive, Nets fans.
Right, right. And he was the one asking some of the tougher questions. And now that Friedel and all these people are gone, Pooch is gone, and now it's a smaller crowd. They're upset that the questions aren't hard enough. We could put this to rest, but it is worth the conversation because the Nets do get a lot of slack for certain things, and they don't get the credit that they deserve for other things. It
Yes.
works both ways.
Yeah.
Jordy Fernandez, nobody's talking about him nationally, but they probably should be.
Yes. 100%.
So we could put that to rest the same way when Ben Simmons got traded, we put that conversation to rest.
Yes. Yeah. Much needed
Colin,
to those.
Colin, you did fantastic work for Nets Daily this year, the Brooklyn podcast. The man behind editing all the clips too. I got to give you a lot of credit there, folks. The 109 of you behind the screen, give him a little golf clap there, Colin. This has been an honor and a pleasure. I told you from day one to be doing a podcast with you, and for one season in, congratulations.
Thank you, brother. The feeling is absolutely reciprocated. You're the OG here. You're the foundation, and we would not be where we are at without you. Here, Brooklyn Pod or Nets Daily. So
Thank you.
throwing that back your way, 110%. And uh, this is the end of the beginning. Then the beginning
Yeah,
was we knew it would be rough. It's year one of a rebuild, but like we said at the beginning, good things are on the horizon. So let's get excited. Let's have some fun. I'm ready for it. I know you are. I hope everyone is ready for some better days because they're coming.
yeah. Better days are coming. Again, Colin, thank you for everything you've done. Everybody that's tuned in and supported us, whether it be here on Nets Daily, on Twitter, wherever it might be, thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Really, we can't say it enough.
Yes.
We started this podcast like a little less than a year ago. Me and Colin came together, and it took some time to build. And we both work full time. We work 9 to 5 jobs, and we log on red eye on these podcasts, and we really do try and provide the best content for you guys. So hopefully, along this year, a tough year at that too. Just if you wanted to win or whatever it might be, like hopefully we could have been a bright spot in your day. Colin, I want to also use this opportunity to just thank the Nets Daily staff, which is Net Income, Bob
Yeah.
Windrum, who was on the show, Lucas Kaplan, Colin himself, the 2 beat writers of the year, Jordan Green, Brian Florentine, Scott Mitchell covering the Long Island Nets, um, Shara Taylor. I mean, we have so many writers and so many people who are committed to journalism, honestly, to growing in the journalism world and also love hoops. That we need we need these young writers. We need people like yourself who are objective, who love the game, who love writing, who have integrity, to keep pushing because now more than ever we really, really need it. So it's not to get all like deep and serious and everything, but thank you. Thank the Nets Daily staff. Again, thank you to everybody that has listened and supported us. Thank you to playback.tv. We're going to be back in 2 weeks, but it's going to be different type of content. We're going to try and get a guest on here to get ready for the draft and the off season. So, Colin, any last words before I log us off here?
I'm all set, buddy. Let's do it.
All right, brother. Thank
Draft
you.
season.
Thank you. 2025 season in the books. If you want to reach us, you know where to find us at the Brooklyn Pod on X, the Brooklyn Pod on Instagram, the Brooklyn Pod on TikTok. And if you want to email us, it's thebrooklynpod@gmail.com. We'll see you guys in 2 weeks. It's draft lottery time.